They told you Sophia fell. They never told you what she built after, because what came after the fall was not chaos. It was the most precise act of creation the universe had ever seen. And it was meant for you. Welcome to a space where forbidden knowledge becomes personal truth. If your soul has ever felt like it does not belong in this world, you are exactly where you need to be. Subscribe and remember what you are. Every tradition that survived the burning of the ancient libraries agreed on one thing. Something went wrong at the beginning of creation. A wound opened in the fabric of divine reality. A being of immense wisdom reached beyond her appointed boundary and brought forth something that should not have existed. The Church called it a mistake. The Orthodoxy called it sin. The keepers of power called it the origin of all suffering. But not one of them told you what happened next. Not one of them told you what Sophia did after the fall, because what she did next was not collapse. It was not grief. It was not surrender. What she did next was the most dangerous thing a divine being could do inside a broken system. She stayed. She did not retreat into the fullness of the pleroma. She did not dissolve back into the light from which she came. She remained at the edge of the wound she had opened, and she looked into the darkness she had created, and she made a choice that no religious text has ever fully explained. She chose to act again. Not from ignorance this time, not from longing, from knowledge, from full awareness of what she had done and full awareness of what needed to be done to undo it. This is the second creation, and almost no one alive today has heard its name. The being that emerged from Sophia's first act of solitary creation was not evil in the way evil is typically described. It was not malicious from the beginning. It was blind. It opened its eyes in a realm of total isolation, with no memory of the light it had come from, with no voice above it to correct its first assumption. And in that silence it looked around and declared itself the only thing that existed. It called itself God, and because nothing answered back, it believed it. This is Yaldabaoth. This is the craftsman. This is the architect of the material order that you were born into and have never fully felt at home inside. He did not build this world out of hatred. He built it out of ignorance. He constructed a universe based on the only template he had, which was the distorted memory of the pleroma he had never actually seen. He built tiers of reality, each one guarded, each one sealed, each one designed to keep consciousness contained at the level where it could be managed and observed and used. He created the archons to maintain the structure. He breathed laws into existence so the machine would run without him needing to monitor every soul individually. He built a world that functions, a world that has beauty and order and rhythm, but a world that never, not for a single moment, feels entirely like home. Because it is not. It is a copy of something real, built by a being who had never seen the original. Sophia watched all of this happen. The texts that survived the great persecutions of the 2nd and 3rd centuries describe her not as absent, but as present. Not as defeated, but as strategic. She did not intervene immediately. She watched the demiurge build his structure. She watched the archons take their positions. She watched the tiers of false heaven stack themselves into a machine of containment. And then, when the craftsman turned his attention to the creation of the human form, Sophia moved. The Apocryphon of John describes this moment with a precision that should stop every person who reads it completely in their tracks. The demiurge shaped the human body from matter. He assembled the image. He constructed the vessel with extraordinary care, because he wanted this creation to reflect his own authority in the material realm. But when he was finished, the body did not live. It lay there, perfectly formed, completely still. Because the demiurge could build a container, but he could not ignite what goes inside one. He could copy the shape of life, but he could not generate the substance of it. And this is the moment Sophia made her second move. She breathed into the human form the pneuma, the divine breath, the fragment of true light from beyond the demiurge's world. She did not ask permission. She did not consult the archons. She did not wait for a signal from the pleroma. She acted alone again, just as she had at the beginning, but this time the action was not born from longing. It was born from love that had been sharpened by consequence. She placed inside the human body the one thing the entire system of control had no answer for: a spark of the original light, a fragment of the true source that the demiurge had never seen and could not replicate and could not extinguish. The moment that spark entered the human form, everything changed. Adam rose, he lived, and in that instant the material universe, which had been designed as a sealed machine of containment, became something the craftsman had never intended it to be. It became a place where the light of the pleroma was present, hidden inside the very creatures the demiurge had built to serve him. Burning quietly in the chest of every human being who would ever live was a fire that did not belong to the prison. This was the second creation, not a world, a strategy, not matter, a mission. The demiurge understood immediately that something had entered his system that he had not authorized. The texts describe his reaction not as rage, but as fear. He looked at Adam, and he saw a light he had not generated. He looked at Eve, and he saw a clarity he could not explain. And he understood that these beings, built from his own clay, were now carrying something that made them more than his creations. Something that made them, in a dimension he could not fully access, children of a source that was above him. His response was not to destroy them. Destruction would have released the spark back into the light. His response was to bury it, to cover it, to build around it a system of distraction so dense and so convincing that the spark would burn forever without the person carrying it ever knowing it was there. He gave them language and told them some words were forbidden. He gave them law and told them deviation meant punishment. He gave them identity and told them the boundaries of that identity were sacred. He gave them religion and placed himself at the center of it. He gave them history and wrote himself into the beginning of it. He did not need to destroy the divine spark. He only needed to make sure no human being ever stopped long enough and went quiet enough and looked inward enough to find it. This is the inheritance you were born into. Not sin, not punishment, not the consequence of some ancient disobedience in a garden. You were born into a system that was specifically designed to prevent you from discovering what you are carrying. Every structure of distraction in your life, every mechanism of fear, every voice that tells you to look outward for answers instead of inward, every system that rewards conformity and punishes genuine self-inquiry, every institution that places an authority between you and direct experience of the divine, all of it traces back to this single strategic response. The demiurge could not remove Sophia's gift, so he built a world designed to make you forget it was ever given. But here is what that architecture could never account for. The spark does not forget. The spark does not sleep. The spark does not need you to understand Gnostic cosmology, or read ancient texts, or join any tradition, or follow any teacher. The spark simply needs one thing: a moment of genuine stillness in which the noise of the system falls away long enough for you to feel something in your chest that has always been there. Something that does not belong to this world, something that recognizes itself when it hears the truth spoken out loud.